Welcome, 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 and thank you once again, everyone, for joining us or listening in to our I believe it's fourth podcast for the academic year. It's been a great journey so far, so much amazing conversation, so much amazing insight, and I am so happy to be here today. A little bit about me: my name is Chelsea Jean Baptiste, and I just graduated from Temple University, majoring in public health, and I am so excited to be here today. I also have my amazing co host, Malika, who is helping run production. And I'm not here alone, but I also have one of our guests, Amber, and our podcast manager, Armel. So let's get started for today. Our first guest that we'll be having is Armel.
Hi, Chelsea. How are you?
Hi, Armel. I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Not a problem. Thank you for being the creative brain behind it all for this podcast.
No, y'all definitely lead this, and I'm so grateful that you both decided to take this on. So props to you for taking opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you for being so supportive throughout it all.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so first we'll just get started. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you've come to this point in your life so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Burundi. It's in East Africa. And we moved to the US when I was about 11. So I did go through the education system in the US for middle school, high school, and then higher ed as well. During my time at my undergrad, I went to a PWI. So you can imagine. And that was definitely like an adjustment getting used to, even though I grew up in Texas, and that was a predominantly like white neighborhood and white city that we grew up in, but it was still an adjustment. After my undergrad, I decided that I wanted to pursue education, even though that wasn't my major. I actually ended up majoring in biology, social science, and international studies. So a little bit all over the place. So after my undergrad, I decided that I wanted to do education, and I moved to Rwanda and worked with a nonprofit that essentially does similar work as College Possible in education access and success. So they work with recent high school grads and prepare them for college and get them scholarships to schools in the US as well. So that's what I did. And during my time, I realized that I wanted more education in education. So I came back to the US and decided to pursue my master's in higher ed. And I did that in West Virginia, out of all places. Which that was also an adjustment to say the least. But I was a resident director at West Virginia University Institute of Technology, and they were paying for my master's. So I was like, I had to stick it through,
Right.
no matter, no matter how difficult being in this space and this environment is. I stuck it through because I saw the big picture, and I reminded myself the why. And while pursuing my master's, I did a lot of research on first generation, just that first gen experience, because I too felt like I was experiencing that first gen. My parents didn't know anything about like college applications in the US, FAFSA completion. But thankfully, I was part of a program called Upper Bound. And yeah, they created opportunities for me and helped me through that. So I knew that after my master's, I wanted to work with a program that was working with first gen students. And that is how I ended up at College Possible in my current role as a college program. I started as a college program coordinator, and I am now a college program manager.
Oh, congratulations to you.
Thanks,
I mean,
Chelsea.
that just goes to show that no one's path is like a straight path. Everyone has different journeys that they go through to get to
Mhm.
where they are.
Absolutely.
Okay. Having gone to a PWI and worked at one as well, what did you learn from those experiences, and what advice would you give to students getting ready to start school at a PWI?
That's a great question. It was difficult because I grew up having a community of people that looked like me and some from similar culture. So going to PWI was eye opening. I remember one of my very first conversations with my advisor. I was a biology major starting out, and she straight out told me that I couldn't do it. And yeah, I know, shocking. And honestly, that I had a light in me, and that like it definitely dwindled my light, and I believed her. And later on, I talked to some of my friends that were also biology majors that looked like me, and they told me that she told them the same thing. Now, in hindsight, honestly, I don't think I wanted to be a biology major. I was doing it because of immigrant parents. But still, like her words really cut deep. And I think one of the things that I've learned having gone to PWI and worked at one is you have to remember your why. That's what kept me going, remembering my why. And honestly, as even though sometimes I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I had to remind myself, like, Armel, you're here for a reason, and you have to see beyond some of these experiences that you're having. There were so many racial issues at my undergrad that weren't even like addressed. But another lesson that I learned was the importance of having a community. So I was part of the African Student Association, the Black Student Union. So having that community was really helpful, and it's important. Like that's how I survived. Having a community of people that were also experiencing the same things, and just remembering that I'm not alone.
That's great advice because I know a lot of PWIs don't create spaces for people that look like us. So for students to have that community where they feel safe, they have people that they can talk to it's so important.
It's so important. Just like you said, they don't create spaces for us, so we have to create them ourselves. I remember my undergrad, there wasn't an African Student Association. It was created after it started. Yeah, so like
Oh,
you said, yeah, you have to take up space, and you have to create the spaces for yourself.
definitely, definitely. Okay. The next question is, what role has mentorship played in your life and career?
Oh, a big role, I would say. I've been very lucky to have great mentors, and I'll say that like my current boss is actually one of my mentors. And for me, it's been a great experience because they're the people that sort of like talk sense to you when you're starting to lose your light, and they remind you that you do belong where you are, and that you are doing great things, and that you're capable of even greater things. So it's been important for me to have mentors and to seek them out. And I have several different mentors. And mentors that look like me as well. I think that has been important. And it's also been important for me to mentor others, and to share the knowledge that I have now, things that I wish I knew growing up. And so, yeah, mentorship has played a big role in my life.
I completely agree because as like for me as like a 20 something, I don't know it all. I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure life out. So it's like whatever advice I can get, I'll take it because I know there's always more to just what I know because my
Mhm.
brain is limited for my age. So
Yeah.
having other resources and other people that can speak life into me, that can give me little gems along the way is always so helpful.
So helpful. And it takes wisdom to acknowledge that, like, as a 20 something year old, you don't know it all, and to seek out that knowledge from others.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, how do you guide your college coaches to empower their students?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. So my coaches, I will first start out. I love my coaches. In the 3 years that I've been at College Possible, I've been, I would say, lucky to have the most amazing team. And one thing that I like to address early on is just the savior mentality that some people may have um, working in nonprofit. I think that like that sometimes comes with the space like, oh, I'm helping out these people, not even just like the students, but just like in any nonprofit. So I like to address that earlier on. Like, we're no one's savior. Our students are so capable. They just haven't had the resources due to the school system that they've gone through. And as a student of color, and remembering myself when I was in middle school, high school, like teachers asking me, I remember very vividly in high school, I did well, and I was taking this algebra class, and I think it was like algebra 2 or something, and it was like super easy for me. I will get hundreds, and one time my teacher pulled me aside and was like, how are you getting hundreds? Like, are you cheating? I was like, dude, wow, like that was I so it's things like that, experiences like that, when we aren't seen for the greatness that we have in us. So what I like to remind my coaches, and what I remind myself, is that, like, you're there to support the student, you're there to empower them and advocate for them, but then also teach them to advocate for themselves, and to share with them some of the resources that they may not be aware of. And honestly, I think the biggest part, and the most important part that our coaches can play, is reminding the students that you are capable. Like, no matter what you've heard in your life from teachers, from family, from whoever, like, you are capable, and you're just as smart as any other student. You know, the students that may be performing better may have other resources that you don't, but you're just as capable. So that's the biggest thing that I remind my coaches when it comes to our students. I'm very protective of our students, and they're capable just like we are. It's just that some may not have the resources, so reminding them, and reminding them to advocate for themselves.
I know that just that little reminder, I know, goes a long way.
Mhm.
Knowing that, everyone isn't from the same background. So just that little reminder here and there, like, okay, like, we're not all the same. Some of us need more help than others. I know
Mhm.
they really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remind myself that, like, too, as well. Like, I am capable, Armel, you're capable.
Mhm. Okay. And last question is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh my gosh. So much. So much, honestly. I think the biggest thing is, I remind myself to, like, or I'll tell myself to go for it, go for the big opportunities, go for the big schools, go for the challenging jobs, and to not be the reason why I can't be my own stumbling block, if that makes sense. Like, I have to be my biggest cheerleader, and I have to,
Mhm.
like, be the person that believes in me the most. So that's definitely what I would tell myself. And I would tell myself that I am worthy, I'm capable, and that I belong to be in the rooms that I'm in, and that I'm there for a reason. So, like, yeah, imposter syndrome is real, but I think everyone deals with it. And I would just remind myself that, like, I'm here for a reason, and I am just as capable as anyone else around me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Armel, for dropping your gems. I'm like a really big quotes person, and I
Mhm.
I put a bunch in my head to remember. So thank you
Yeah,
again, and
of
don't leave
course.
just yet, because at the end we're going to bring all of the guests back together for one last question.
Of course. Thank you so much, Chelsea.
Thank you. Okay, and at this moment, we're now going to bring our next guest, Amber.
Hi there. Hello.
Hi, Amber. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm still just reeling from all the gems that Armel was dropping. I'm over here taking notes myself. It was so great.
Okay, so let's just hop right in. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So, I'm Senior Advisor of Diversity and Recruiting and Strategic Partnerships for Raymond James Financial. And all of that means is that I lead the D&I talent acquisition strategy to better engage, support, and hire demographics that have been historically underrepresented within financial services. So, my journey to a career in diversity and inclusion really started with my passion for people and development, which I know sounds cliche, but it's true. Hear me out. I realized early on in my career that I enjoyed being a part of others' personal and professional growth. Like Armel stated before, I myself am a first generation college student, and having navigated throughout college successfully, all of those things, how to apply. I had no idea you should spend so much time in the career development center. There's so many resources, and how to submit your application, how to fill out a FAFSA. There's all these things that we don't know as first gen college students. Our families are so proud of us, but we still have to sort of continue on and figure it out, on our own. And so, having done that successfully, it led me to starting a mentorship organization during my sophomore year of college. And so I named my mentorship program. It was an acronym that I took from my last name. So it was called GRACE, and that stood for Girls Rising Above Circumstances to Exceed. And I'm not too creative, but I was young. Grace was a way for me to connect with middle school and high school age young women and really help to prepare them for college or for whatever it is that they wanted to do after school. And so I would partner with local boys and girls clubs and churches and recreation centers to create this safe space to really be able to pour into other young women who were coming up with a similar socioeconomic background as myself. After graduation, I started my career in retail buying. I was an assistant buyer for a large retailer based up in the Northeast. So I worked there for a few years, and then I was recruited to a retailer based here in Florida, where I'm currently located. And it was a no-brainer. I had someone reach out to me. It was the dead of winter. I was up in Pennsylvania. They reached out to me. It was winter. There was snow all on my car, and they were like, "How would you like to come down in Florida and do what you're doing now?" And I was like, absolutely, get me out of here. And so, I never lost my passion for people. So as I was working at that retailer based in Florida, I was continually training other people, training other buyers, training our merchandise techs and assistants. And that led to an opportunity that they had in HR as a training and development lead. And I was like, oh my God, what a great opportunity to really combine these things that I love and really put an emphasis on that people aspect that I'm so passionate about. So that's what launched my career in human resources. And then leading to diversity and inclusion. I feel like as a Black woman in corporate America, no matter what it is that you're doing, you'll never truly escape that aspect of having to be an advocate or that voice in the room, no matter what job it is that you're doing. But I really just took it on, and here at Raymond James, leading our diversity and recruiting efforts has just, really solidified that passion for me.
Great. Well, this year I would say this is the most I've ever heard DEI before, and I'm just like, wow. Like, it's actually great that it's becoming such a popular thing, and it's basically in all organizations and companies because it's something that like we really, really need.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been around for a while, but I definitely feel that coming off of the events of 2020, thinking about all that happened, and hearing a lot in the news, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, we definitely saw and witnessed a strong response from a lot of corporate organizations that I think was very unprecedented. I know we're so tired of hearing that term, unprecedented, but it really was a sort of stance that you saw a lot of companies take, and it was great and it was positive. And so I'm happy to see that a lot of organizations didn't just stop at 2020. And so here we are 2 years later, and we're still seeing a lot of that work continuing and advancing.
Absolutely. Okay, next question is, as a first generation student, what would you say are the 5 key things you did in order to set yourself up for success?
Oh, 5 key things. Let's see. I would say so. The first thing is twofold. Looking for others around you who you admire and just would like to emulate. For me, that was my mother. growing up in the area that we grew up in. My mom, even though she didn't go to college, she really built out her career in banking. And so in the area that we grew up in, she was actually the first Black branch manager. And I remember when she got the job, it was like in our local paper and they had her photo there. And just seeing her really, advance in her career despite all odds really inspired me. But in the area that we grew up in, I would say outside of my mother, I didn't see too many people that I wanted to be like. I saw a lot of people that I didn't want to be like. So it was really taking stock of what was around me, seeing, my mother and someone who I emulated was the first thing, but then also seeing, well, if you're not successful if you don't find your way out through education, these other folks that you see around you that, could be your future. So first thing was just really taking stock of my environment. Second thing was, really assessing what opportunities were available to me, really doing my research, reaching out to school counselors or whoever it was that could, help me as I navigated these waters, understanding that I did want to advance my education. I did want to go on to college, even though, I didn't see anyone, really around me doing that. Oh my God, 5 things. And then let's see, the third thing as a first generation college student for me was then reaching back, right? You get accepted to college and then I was just experiencing such success and I was like, wow, I would have wished that there was somebody, around who was around my age who looked like me, that would have talked to me about these things that I'm now experiencing. And when I feel like, reaching back in that mentorship aspect, what it does is it not only helps the person that you're reaching back to, but it also helps you. It reinforces a lot of things and instills a lot of things in you when you're able to, teach it to someone else. You're also, teaching those things to yourself. I would say networking, reaching out, just taking a sort of leap of faith, always showing up no matter what it is, no matter what the opportunity is. If someone, asks, hey, come to this networking session, come to this, career development session, just say yes. Just say, you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet. So just say yes, and just showing up are some of the things that have helped me. I've met so many great people that, if I kind of just stayed in my own world and stuck in my own bubble, I wouldn't have met. And so just really sort of taking that chance and stepping outside of my own sort of box truly helped me. I don't know if that was 5 things, but I feel like we're pretty close.
I believe it was. But networking, definitely, I didn't notice how big it was until I reached my senior year of college. And I'm just like, wow, like you really never know who knows who and who can set you up for like success or just get your name in the door for just certain opportunities. So it's a huge one. And I wish I would have started earlier, but I still have a lot of time.
You have a lot of time and it's never too late. And especially now in this virtual environment, I find that so many people are just open to just hopping on a virtual call. You used to be when we thought of networking, we thought we had to physically go somewhere or go to an event or go to a conference. And now I've reached out to people who I want to connect with on LinkedIn. They might be in California or in Chicago. And I'm just like, hey, I just want a 15-minute coffee chat. I just want to learn more about what you do. And so many people are open to that now. And so I really feel that this virtual environment that we found ourselves in over the last 2 years has even increased that opportunity to network for sure.
I would definitely agree. Okay, the next question is, what role did mentorship play in your life and career?
Yes, mentorship is everything for me. It's helped me tremendously. I mentor others, but also I have mentors in different aspects of my life. I have spiritual mentors, I have professional mentors, I have mentors for entrepreneurial ventures that I want to go after. So it's not like you just have to find that one mentor. You can have lots of mentors in different areas of your life that you just be consistent and check in. And I would say with mentorship, truly treat it as this this two-way street, not just what that person can do for you, but also offering whatever it is that you can do for them, no matter what type of, skills that you have, understand maybe some of their professional endeavors or their personal endeavors that they're looking to, and how you can support, truly making it that two-way street type of, relationship goes such a long way, so that people don't always feel like you're just calling on them when you need something, but they know that they can also lean into you as well. So I have mentors, have had mentors all throughout my life that have helped me and have opened up doors for me, that I don't feel would have been open had I not cultivated that relationship. And I also make it a point to mentor others. I spent a lot of time recruiting at historically Black colleges and universities, and just throughout that time have accumulated so many mentees that I keep in touch with, and that I want to help them navigate this world. Now you're in college, how do you get that internship? How do you get that next job opportunity? Resume writing, interviewing skills, all of those great things that, they may not be getting on their campus, or they may not be getting at home. And so I want to make sure that I'm there and that I'm showing up for them. Mentorship is just so important. Right now, one thing that we're talking about, and you'll hear it in corporate spaces, is moving beyond mentorship and then moving to a place of sponsorship, right? And as a professional and a woman of color in a corporate space, we really rely on those sponsorship opportunities to truly open up those doors for us. That's when, when we are not in the room, when we're not at the table, we have someone who can advocate for us and really help to open up those doors. And so I want to also be that sponsorship for other people. And that's what happens. Someone opens up a door for you, you walk through, and you're able to open up the door for others.
I really like that concept. And mentorship has, it's so important. Like I was saying earlier with Armel, like there's so many things that you don't know until someone else tells you. So just having that person that looks like you, that you can confide in, that you can ask for advice in, is always so important.
So important, so important. I cannot stress it enough.
Next question is, what is Raymond James doing specifically to support more diverse talent?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot. Similarly to many companies in 2020, we had a very strong response, and we released our commitment to the Black community. And so we have about 12 specific objectives that we rolled out to say how we are going to support the Black community over the course of the next few years. One of that was our $1.5 million commitment to the Black community. And so we selected 12 organizations, with College Possible being one. So we selected 1,200 organizations across the country where we have a strong presence, and partnered with local organizations that have specific objectives in order to drive and advance the Black community. And so we've done different things, of course, donated monetarily, but then also donating our time, our resources, mentorship. We have a lot of our associates and advisors that will go out and mentor, others in partnership with this organization. So that was one external facing opportunity. Internally, we have what's called our inclusion networks. So if you think about Raymond James, I would think about it in sort of two buckets. You have the retail aspect of Raymond James, and that's that financial advising side. So that's where we have over 8,000 advisors across the country, in various branches, and that is the sort of outward facing aspect. And so in that area, we have our advisor inclusion network. So we have our Black Financial Advisors Network, our Women's Financial Advisor Network, our Pride Financial Advisor Network, and then our newest network we have is our Veterans Network. And that's just understanding that our advisors, especially coming in with, underrepresented backgrounds, they also face challenges when going and trying to build out their business. And so Renee Baker, she is head of our Advisor Inclusion Network, and she and her team have done a great job in just providing resources to be able to help and advance our advisors, and particularly the Black Financial Advisor Network. And then you have our associate advisor network. So again, looking at Raymond James in two buckets, you have your retail facing, and then you also have all of your corporate functions. So me within HR, I sit within a corporate function, and we have our six associate inclusion networks. Even I get confused. And so we have Mosaic, which is our multicultural network, and then we have our women's inclusion network, our Pride inclusion network, Emerge, which is for young professionals. We have Encore, which is for experienced professionals that are a little bit further on in their career. And then we also have our Veterans Network. And then recently, what we did was we launched our mentorship for Black associates. So, again, with that mentorship aspect, that sponsorship aspect, understanding that our Black associates, our Black peers don't always get the same amount of support for various reasons in corporate functions. And so we set up this mentorship organization specifically to address those inequities. And so our Black associates who are part of that mentorship group, they get paired with a member of senior leadership. And again, this is someone who they get to connect with. They have that one-on-one connectivity to. And this is the person who, when that associate is not in the room, you know that senior leader has a seat at the table and they're able to advocate for advancement and for change for their particular mentee.
Wow, that's great. I know, like you said, like so many companies in 2020 were like, yeah, we're with you, but after a couple months, it's like, are you still with us?
We're like, wait, where's all the noise?
That's great.
It's important. We have to continue across all organizations. You have to continue to push the message and to really let the people know what it is that you're doing. I think I was reading a statistic recently, and it said about 60% of folks who are looking for jobs, they look to see, what is the company's ESG, response, and diversity and inclusion is a part of that. And so that's a lot of people who are considering what is a company's response, to diversity and inclusion, to, social responsibility when they're looking to join an organization. And so it can't just be 2020. It has to be beyond that. It has to be every day, and it has to be front facing.
You're absolutely right. Okay, and our last question is, what advice would you give to a student that is experiencing imposter syndrome?
Oh my goodness. I have so much to say about that. I mean, we're all going to experience it at various points in our career. I experience it. But what I would say is, as a student, or if you're early on in your career, what I would say is, number one, give yourself some grace. Really practice that same empathy that you would for others. Practice that for yourself. Understand that there are systems and structures, at play, that it's not just for you to overcome. And so just understanding that and giving yourself that grace and that empathy goes a long way, having that compassion for yourself. Number two, just show up. It's practice, right? It's the more you do it, the more it becomes familiar to you. And so as you go to that networking event, as you go to that recruiting event, as you show up to your classroom, practice showing up in the fullness of yourself. Practice, not cowering in the corner because you're afraid of, how people might perceive you or what they may think of you. It's just practicing. You might not feel all the way there the first time, but the more you do it, the more you just show up in your fullness and in your greatness, is going to, feel like second nature eventually. So just that repetitiveness of just, keep doing it and keep going. I would say in other days, pretend. Just pretend. You pretend, you show, maybe not every day, you don't feel it, but just, show up anyway. But I say all that to say, just know that you deserve to be there. If you are in that room, if you are sitting at that table, you deserve to be there. You are deserving, you are welcomed, and show up anyway. But just know that your voice is so needed, and it's needed in these corporate spaces. You need to bring your voice because these companies really, don't have that. And diverse perspectives really drive innovation. It drives revenue. It's not just something great to do just to say that we're doing it. It really is a business imperative. And so, in order to have that, number one, companies need to create an inclusive environment. But number two, we have to show up.
Right. Right. Thank you so much again, Amber. Like it was so amazing hearing you talk and all the gems that you dropped. But right now we're going to just bring Armel back for one final question and then we'll be wrapping up. Okay, hi ladies. We're all together now.
Hey,
Ember, that was amazing. I'm so inspired. Like, wow, great
you
comment.
were amazing.
Okay, so for our last question, um, it is keeping our topic in mind, what advice would you give to our students? So that is students that are higher ups and are transitioning to college pretty soon, and those that are in college.
Mhm.
Awesome. Armel, you let me know if you want to take it or if you want me to jump in.
You can go ahead.
Awesome. So, the advice I would give is, you know, reach out, have those conversations with others. I don't know if everyone may or may not have a LinkedIn account. I know I think that's more of like a millennial and Gen X thing, but definitely if you're Gen Z, create that LinkedIn account and really leverage it. I would say, recruiters are not may not necessarily be on TikTok and on Instagram, but we are certainly on LinkedIn and always open and willing to have a conversation. So networking is just such a strong tool. And I'm sorry, my video is lagging. Let me know if you can see me okay.
We can see you,
Okay,
okay?
perfect. Sorry about that. But networking is such a strong tool, and you really want to start to practice it now because it's never going to go away. It's going to be something that is only going to serve you. So whether you do that in LinkedIn or you're looking at organizations that events that are happening through your school, just continue to look for those opportunities to be able to show up, to network, to reach out. Really, what it is stepping outside of your box, of your circle, stepping outside of your comfort zone. Once you're outside of your comfort zone, I mean, the world really is your oyster. And you just feel a sense of confidence when you're able to do something that you've not done previously. And it's just a very empowering feeling, but you do that just by showing up and reaching out into spaces and out to people that you would not have done before.
Wow. I don't know how to follow that. But that was great advice, honestly. And I think, as you mentioned, the importance of networking, and Chelsea also mentioned like how she wished she was able to do that earlier on. It is also something that I wish during my college time that I was able to network more, whether that was like at the career center or even with the professors. So I would definitely echo that. And the next thing that I would say is something that I said earlier, just you deserve to be there. I think during launch, a lot of students did express just like the nervousness of going into a campus, being around people that don't know. Um, and you deserve to be there just as much as anyone else. You got in just like any other student. You may be, some students may be behind, but it's not because, I think, remember, it's not because you're not capable, but it's because you haven't had the resources. So seek them out, get involved on campus. I think it's so important to get involved in different organizations and befriend your professors. I think that is so important. The network just within the professors is monumental. So get involved. Find opportunities, get internships, and make those connections that way. And then I would say the next thing is don't limit yourself. I think a popular word right now on TikTok is be delusional. Like truly be delusional. You have nothing to lose. I think remembering that the worst thing that can happen is nothing, which is what you're experiencing right now. The worst thing that can happen is a no, and you don't get something that you don't already have. So really go for the big opportunities, go for the big jobs. And speak up, take space. Don't be afraid to take up space. I think sometimes we play ourselves to be so much smaller than we are. So be bold, be who you are, and like take up that space and really like speak for yourself. Be the person you wish you had as a mentor growing up. That's what I remind myself. Like I want to be the woman I wish like my younger self could look up to. So yeah, that those are my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, ladies. I know the students that are going to listen to this when it is produced are going to really have that pick me up, whether they're starting college or they're going back for another year. I know they're really going to use these, write a lot of gems down. So thank you so much again, ladies, for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for hosting us. And thank you so much, Amber, for joining us.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you for having me. This has been great, and I've learned so much, and I so appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. At this moment, I'm going to bring my co-host on and just ask her just a simple question about what she thought about the podcast this academic season, knowing that it was our first go around. So, welcome to the stage, Malika. Hey, Malika.
Hello.
So, how did you think
Hey
this
girl,
first?
a great job. You killed it.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So, how do you think this first academic year of Our Purpose, Our Voice podcast went?
I thought it went great. I just was captivated by the experience and to even be able to host a podcast show and you like us be able to do it together. It was just a great experience for me and I learned so much just by being in college and getting ready to graduate. And I know you learned a lot as well. So go ahead and tell me what you learned.
Well, just like you said, like we've learned a lot. Like we were kind of we said yes to the opportunity, and at first it was kind of just like, oh my gosh, we were learning how to use StreamYard, we were learning how to host for the first time. So it was pretty nerve-wracking, like, oh my gosh, like are we ready? But we've made it this far and I think we've done like a great job. And I think students will have something so amazing to listen into whenever they're feeling discouraged, whenever they need to pick me up, or whenever they just need like a reminder of why they're here. So I think it's been great thus far, and I can't wait to tune in next year. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and stay tuned.